If you're a buyer in Metro Vancouver, the next 3 to 4 months might be the best shot you get at real value for the rest of this cycle, and almost nobody is acting like it. We've got sales jumping month over month, inventory sitting near multi-year highs, and fixed rates back in the mid threes, and yet the market feels sleepy. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what actually happened in October, why the headlines are missing the real story, and how to use this window between now and February to your advantage whether you're buying or selling. We'll break down the October numbers in plain English, what's happening in the detached, townhome, and condo segments, and how court-ordered and distressed sales are quietly changing the landscape, as well as a clear game plan so you don't get caught on the wrong side of the next move. So let's get into it right now. So first, let's zoom out and talk about what October really told us. Headline number one, sales were up about 7% compared to September. That sounds strong until you look at the bigger picture. October did around 2,250 sales across Metro Vancouver, which is still about 14% lower than October of last year and roughly 15% below the 10-year seasonal average. So yes, things picked up a bit from September, but we are nowhere near what I would call a busy fall market. This isn't 2021, despite what the news media outlets say, and it's not even 2016. It's a slow, grinding market with pockets of activity. And if you're a seller, you're definitely feeling the pain. And you can just see and look at this trend line. And that's why you have to be very cautious when you are taking cues from the media. They can use things that are attention headlining grabbing, such as a 7% monthly growth. But when you look at where these sales are here in 2025, I mean, we are far below what we've seen in the majority of the data that we see here over the last 14, 15 years here. So with this trend line in the Vancouver monthly home sales here, we are on the bottom half of this graph for sure. Where it gets interesting is when you layer in what's happening with rates and financing. The Bank of Canada has now cut its policy rate 4 times this year, including again in October. On top of that, you have lenders like Vancity offering fixed rates in roughly the 3.7% range. And myself, I just renegotiated and turned a variable rate into a fixed with Scotia at 3.55. That is the cheapest money we've seen in years, and yet we haven't seen a sustained surge of buyers coming off the sidelines. We had a little burst of activity for about 4 weeks in June and July, and then another mini run in early October when the last rate cut hit the headlines. But both times it fizzled out very quickly, and as we head into winter, the energy has cooled again. So you've got this weird combination. Financing is better than it's been in a long time. Prices have eased off their peaks across all segments. Inventory is still elevated and buyers are still hesitant. That hesitation is exactly why I keep telling people from November through February, this is your window for the best values. So let's talk about inventory and why the feel of this market is so different. In October, we saw just over 5,400 new listings hit the MLS in Metro Vancouver, and that's basically flat compared with last October, but significantly above the 10-year seasonal average. Total active listings are sitting around 16,400, and that's roughly 13% higher than a year ago and about 36% above the 10-year norm. Translation, there's a lot more to choose from than what we've been used to in the last decade. Now, the sales to active listings ratio, the number that tells us if we're in buyer's, balance, or seller's market, came in around 14% overall in October. By segment, it breaks down roughly like this. In the detached market, low teens sales to active ratio, townhomes high teens, and condos mid-teens. Historically, anything under 12% for a sustained period puts downward pressure on prices, and anything over 20% for several months usually pushes prices up. Sitting in the mid-teens is that uncomfortable middle ground. It's not a full-blown buyer's market across the board, but it's absolutely not a seller-controlled market either, especially when you add in how much inventory we are currently carrying. On top of that, benchmark prices have come off. Composite benchmarks across all property types is about 1.13 million, down roughly 3 to 4% compared with last October and just under 1% compared with September. Detached is sitting around 1.9 million, down over 4% year over year, and townhomes around 1.06 million, down just under 4% from last year. Condos are about $719,000, down just over 5% year over year, and more than 1% just from September. So prices are not falling off a cliff, but they are quietly grinding lower while inventory sits elevated and buyer confidence is shaky. And that's the backdrop. Now let's look at what's happening inside of each single segment here. So we'll start with detached first. Detached sales in October were down a bit compared with last year, and the benchmark price has pulled back a little over 4% in the last 12 months. Month over month, we're down just under 1%. What I'm seeing on the ground is this: well-priced, move-in ready homes in great school catchments still move, but the day of 15 offers and $300,000 over asking are long gone. Anything with a flaw, it doesn't even need to be a big flaw, an odd lot, busy street, obvious deferred maintenance, or price like it's still 2022 is just sitting. Sellers who are clinging to peak pricing are getting punished with long days on market and lowball offers, and the buyers who are active in this segment are extremely selective and very numbers driven. For buyers, this is where the window between November and February really matters, when you combine higher inventory, seasonal slowdown, and sellers who have been chasing the market down for months. You start to see genuine opportunities on good detached homes, especially if you're willing just to look outside the core or accept a project that needs some work. If you're a seller in the detached segment, this is not the time to price aspirationally. You need to price where the data is today, not where your neighbor sold in 2022. And you have to decide if you're actually motivated. Half measures get punished in this environment. Now let's talk townhomes here. Townhomes are kind of the middle child of this market. They're not as frothy as they were in the pandemic years, but they haven't softened as aggressively as condos either. Sales are down modestly year over year, and the benchmark price has eased roughly 4% compared with last October and a fraction of a percent from September. What I'm seeing is this: families and move-up buyers still love this segment because it gives them space and a yard without full detached pricing. But payment shock is real, and people renewing or coming out of cheap pre-approvals are looking at much higher monthly payments than they expected 2 or 3 years ago. Because of that, the pool of qualified buyers in the $1 to $1.3 million range has shrunk. You still get competition for the perfect unit in the perfect complex, but the average project is taking longer to sell, and buyers have more leverage on inspection items, completion dates, and even small price reductions. If you're a buyer here, this is one of the cleanest trade-offs in the market right now. You can step into a quality townhome, often in a great school catchment, for less money than it would cost to buy and renovate a tired detached house. And with fixed rates in that mid 3% range, your monthly payment might surprise you in a good way compared with what you're seeing in the headlines. And if you're selling a townhome, you have to remember you're not just competing with other townhomes. You're competing with older condos at lower prices and smaller detached homes just outside the core. If your pricing doesn't reflect that reality, the market is going to ignore you. Condos are where the stress really shows up. Condo sales in October were down more than 20% compared with last year, and the benchmark price is down just over 5% year over year, with a noticeable drop just from September. On paper, that sounds mild. In practice, it feels worse in certain pockets. Investor-heavy buildings, luxury condos downtown, and product that was bought pre-sale at very aggressive price per square foot numbers. You're seeing a lot more price reductions and terminations in those areas because investors are getting squeezed by the higher rates, softer rents, or some rent plateaus in some micro markets, and appraisals that don't support their original purchase price. On the end user side, first-time homebuyers are still active, but they are cautious. They're hyper-focused on strata minutes, upcoming special levies, building condition, and monthly carrying costs. If you're buying a condo right now, you actually have a lot of leverage. If you're disciplined about the building you buy into, this is where the details matter. Construction era, rain screen history, CRF balance, deferred maintenance, all of it. You can get a better price, but you do not want to pick up a deal in a building that is about to hit you with a 6-figure special levy. If you're selling a condo, especially in a building with higher investor concentration or in the luxury segment, you need to price ahead of the market, not behind it. The buyers who are transacting here are bargain hunting and comparing you to a larger pool of listings than we've seen in several years. Now let's talk about the side that almost nobody wants to talk about: court-ordered sales and distress. One of the most important data points in the slide deck is the number of court-ordered and distressed sales we're seeing compared with the last few years. The absolute numbers are still small relative to the whole market, but the trend is up. You've got owners who bought pre-construction at peak pricing now facing completions with appraisals coming in lower than their contract price, investors who finance in a low rate world and are now struggling to cash flow at today's rates, people coming up to renewal who simply can't carry the new payment once their teaser rate expires. When those situations can't be resolved by refinancing or a private sale, they start to show up as court-ordered sales. And here's why that matters even if you're not in trouble personally. Court-ordered sales often become the new comps in the neighborhood, dragging down appraisals and buyer psychology. They create price points that regular sellers don't want to match, but buyers are absolutely looking at them when they write offers. And there is a signal that stress is building under the surface, even if headline prices are only drifting down a few percent. If you're a buyer and you're pre-approved, patient, and working with an agent who understands the court process, these can be incredible opportunities, but they are not for the faint of heart. The timelines, the lack of warranties, and the as-is nature of many of these properties mean you need to be very clear on your risk tolerance. If you're an owner who is starting to feel the squeeze, the biggest mistake you can make is waiting until you're already in arrears or facing legal action. In this market, selling proactively before it becomes a court-ordered situation is almost always leaves you with more options and a lot more equity. So what does all of this mean for you between now and February? And here's the blunt version. For buyers, you have more leverage than we've seen in years and years and years. With the high inventory, softer prices, fatigued sellers, and financing that's finally back into the mid 3% range. The market gave you two little warning shots in June to July and early October. And when a rate cut hits and sentimental flips, the good product goes quickly and the deals can disappear. Winter to November through February is when most people go into hibernation. The listings that are on the market are there for a reason. The seller who stays listed through the holidays are usually motivated. If you've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for a perfect moment, this is as close as it gets. Cheaper money, softer prices, more choice, and less competition. Your job is to get educated on the micro markets, know your numbers cold, and be ready to move when the right opportunity shows up. For sellers, you are not powerless, but you do not control this market. Pricing, preparation, and strategy matter more than at any time since the last real downturn. If you have to sell in the next 6 to 12 months, your best shot at a decent outcome is to price correctly now, stand out with presentation, and be realistic about offers. Waiting for a spring bounce that may or may not show up is a gamble. And if you have to move, you need to think carefully about your financing, your renewal timeline, and your longer term plans. In some cases, holding and riding this out makes sense. In other cases, selling proactively before you become part of the distressed stats is the smarter move. To wrap this up, October's 7% jump in sales makes for a nice headline, but it doesn't tell the full story. We're still below normal activity, inventory is elevated, prices are quietly easing, and distress is starting to show up around the edges. At the same time as financing has become the most attractive it's been in years. If you're a buyer, that combination does not last forever, and if you're a seller, ignoring it doesn't make it go away. If you want help making sense of how this applies to your specific situation, your home, your neighborhood, your budget, reach out. I'm in the market every day, and I'm happy to walk you through the numbers so you can make a calm, clear decision instead of reacting to the headlines. You can book a call. The link is in the description below, or you can just scan that QR code and book directly into my calendar. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you on the next one.